Looks like. Oh, hey! Jesus! How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you, Jam?
All right. So, everyone, welcome to another session in Jam's virtual Drupal camp. I have got Jesus Manuel Olivas talking with me today and presenting for you today, all the way from, where are you based, Jesus?
I'm in Mexicali, Mexico.
Oh,
So just
man.
by the border of US.
And what's the weather like there today?
It's really hot. It's really hot in here.
Oh.
Most of the year is really hot.
Oh, so it's not so, in fact, we're barely even having spring where I am, so let's not talk about that. So, this Jam's Drupal Camp thing is an offshoot of the Acquia podcast where I get to talk with a lot of smart people about Drupal, about open source, community, technology, business kind of things, and I get to see a bunch of Drupal Camp sessions during the course of any given month, and I thought that it would be fun to highlight some to make them more easily findable and to sort of show them quickly and easily to a broader audience of people. Hence, we have this event. Jesus and I spoke in New York City at the NYC camp not too long ago, and Jesus has a really, really interesting and really, really helpful programming tool for Drupal 8 developers. We will get to that in a minute. Jesus, let's see, how long have you been doing Drupal?
Been doing Drupal like 5 years now, but mostly like since 2 years. I've been doing more Symfony development than Drupal. So that's why when this Drupal 8, initiative about like using Symfony components took place, I just got back interested to work in Drupal.
You felt like coming home again.
Yeah.
So what's your first Drupal memory?
Actually, I think I tried Drupal 5 something back in the time, but at that time I used to be a Java developer, and I used to have my own CMS in Java, JSP, JSF, JSDL, all that technologies. And I tried Drupal. It was not a good memory because just load it, and there's like, boom, you have nothing. I didn't get the idea of Drupal. Like you have to build, add these modules to add this functionality, and I just kind of tried, but I didn't try hard. And for being sincere, I didn't like how it looks, and I remember my CMS has all like Ajax and all this stuff and generating. Was more than a CMS, was something like static site generator. And then just getting to Drupal, and it feels like really, really complex, and just didn't try hard and just quit. Then later on I tried Drupal 6, and at the beginning was the first impression like it's the same thing. The little thing does nothing. Then just getting into the documentation, finding out how Drupal works, and really got into how easy it was to extend. So that's what really get me from Drupal. Then starting from that, you start trying to build small sites and attending conferences and just really get into all this Drupal community, and that's what I find Drupal is great.
Great, cool, okay. So when you first tried it out, it wasn't clear to you that you actually that it's just a giant bucket of Legos that you need to put together to make a house or a machine or a spaceship, right?
Yeah, it was like, it was my fault because I didn't get into that documentation properly. I was trying to, I didn't play with the others, but I have some friends that used to use like Joomla and Mambo, those days, and WordPress, and remember from what they were telling me, like all those CMSs were like, out of the box and just use a product ready to work. That's what I find out hard in Drupal the first time. That's why my first attempt was not successful, because I didn't really get into the mindset of that you can extend through adding modules and functionality and all. The Drupal basically didn't get into the Drupal way at that time.
Right. It's sort of the opposite of a product. You can use it to make other products, but
Yeah,
So,
and I think that the first impression is unclear. I mean, most of the time, and it happens. People that get into Drupal tell me the same thing, and I know their feeling, and it's like, oh, you're kind of trying. I mean, in a wrong way. You should do it like this, and then you find out Drupal. It's just amazing tool.
okay, so once you figured that out, now what's your favorite thing about Drupal now?
I mean, like now, I mean, I didn't say like a module. It's great for me. What I really like about Drupal now, it's the easiest way you can add external libraries to your projects, or how it's pushing all these best practices when building sites or modules. Basically, implementing or trying to like implement this proud invent elsewhere, and I mean just forgot about the not invented here syndrome. It's kind of adding new libraries of projects from other, I mean, or other like products will be easier now with I mean how based on how Drupal 8 is built.
Oh, sure. So what are you most excited about in Drupal 8?
Oh, basically there's a couple of things like how easy it is to like I mean separate your or decouple your code. It's like, I mean, how you easily can structure, I mean, your classes in this object-oriented, how you can put your code into services and just consume that services within a controller or within a blog or any other piece of the framework. It's easier to just put all these pieces, I mean, create all these little pieces and just consume or reuse them within the whole system.
Okay, so I do have to keep in mind that you are possibly presenting the most technical and geekiest session of the week. So, of course, that is also your favorite stuff. How do you think that Drupal 8 is going to improve the workflow for developers like you? How's it going to make your job easier?
Well, I mean, based on the way you build your modules or your tools, basically, I mean, just talking about the same thing. You can, instead of put all of your code within your module, you can put this code within a external library, and you can use this library within like Drupal or any other frameworks like Silex or which is a micro framework, or Laravel or Symfony, and more people can get into, I mean, adding code or send you pull requests for the library. Maybe this library can live outside of Drupal. Let's say we have this library living in GitHub, and more people, even people without without a Drupal user account, can send you commits to your project. And based on the workflow of development, I mean, it's easier to code. I mean, what I have seen, I really learned deep, but about the CMI, which looks great. You can easily like move all your configurations. I
Oh,
was
yes.
from when I was talking to Larry the other day, he was explaining about the stage API, which is also looks like really cool stuff. But there's a lot of cool stuff happening in Drupal 8.
All right. Um, so, what word for you best describes Drupal?
Well, that's a complex one, and I think it's extendable. But I think it's, and even always has been extendable, but like now Drupal 8 is really extendable.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think something huge about Drupal is their community, like people, which is great.
Okay, so what's your favorite part about being in the Drupal community then?
Yeah, it's like really, I mean, it's been really cool. I mean, having the opportunity to meet people, I mean, all over the place, like having, I mean, sometimes just receive like an invitation to talk about Drupal and just, I mean, what is my passion, and just being able to talk to people, let know. It's kind of, as Brand was mentioning, I think it was yesterday, it's like a religious thing. It's like, there's, I mean, we always like having fun about this in our camp, like, it's always like, it's like you are always trying to people like, let know about Drupal and the best practices. But I think what I really like about a lot is like just having a chance to talk to people, talk about Drupal and meet new developers.
Yeah, it's I love being part of I love being part of this community and surrounded by everyone who's smarter than me, and but still willing to talk with me. So.
Yeah, and what is amazing is like even in all those all those conferences, you always find people like that you can learn about. Having a chance to like talking to people like Larry or yourself. It's like or the developers doing like I don't know, maybe you're getting into a specific issue and you're discussing the issue through the site, but then having a chance to talk to them like person, that's priceless.
Yeah, it's really, really, really great. So, thank you really very much for coming on today. This is going to wrap up the podcast section of this. So, thanks for coming on. I really, really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, podcast listeners, come over to the acquia.com page, and you will find Jesus' session and slides embedded there, as well as a post about it. And thank you very much for listening. Now we go to the meat of the session. Jesus is going to talk about the incredible module generating code that he's been working on. Give us a bit of a demo. I am going to shut off my mic and sit in the background here. We have the Q&A open in the live Hangout for any of you watching. If you've got some questions along the way, we'll be able to address those at the end. So I'm going to sit back and geek out to Jesus' session. Jesus, you're on.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. Please let me know if it looks fine.
Looks good.
It's good. Okay, let me go ahead then. Okay. So the session name is Introducing the Drupal 8 Console Scaffolding or Model Generator. So let me go ahead and start with this. Yep. Okay. Well, I already talked about myself, but I'm gonna just kind of do it again for this session. So my name is Jesus Manuel Olivas. I'm a web developer, basically mostly working with Symfony and Drupal. I've been working with Drupal for about 5 years now, but since the last 2 years, I've been doing more Symfony development than Drupal. That's what gets me here back to Drupal. Now the Drupal 8 is using Symfony Symfony Components. You can find me on my blog, jmolivas.com. You can see my code at GitHub, which is like GitHub, then /jmolivas, or GitHub /h1drupal. H1drupal is a place where some friends and myself been like releasing some code. And you can also find me on Twitter at jmolivas. Also in Drupal podcast, which is a Drupal podcast in Spanish. And new project coming on is Drupal 8 links. Okay, let's talk about the Drupal console. What it is and what is useful. And every modern framework nowadays provides helpers and tools for code generation, and those tools are really helpful for speeding up the process of starting a new project and avoid repetitive tasks. Talking Drupal lingo, those tasks are creating new modules or adding new functionality to a current one. Let's say I maybe want to add a new form to a module, or a new block, or maybe a new controller. So this tools, or these generators or scaffolding tools, helps to generate the base code for this task. And basically the purpose of this Drupal 8 console project is take advantage of Symfony Console Component as well as a tweak component to create a command line interface tool to generate modules in Drupal 8. Okay, where do I find this project? If you have a Drupal user account, you can find it in drupal.org/project/console. If you don't, but you have a GitHub account, you can find this one at github.com/drupal app console. I know it's kind of hard, but I will share the slide so you can click the link. It will be easier. And who started this project? Okay, this project was started by David Flores, another Mexican developer. You can find him as dmouse on Twitter, and myself last year. Okay, we start talking about migrating some of the Symfony components to Drupal 8 based on our past experience with Symfony framework. But really, you can blame this guy. You can was not until we talked to Larry Garfield at Drupal Camp Costa Rica, and he mentioned to us bringing the Symfony Console component to Drupal 8 could be like really useful. And when we figure out or really like decide to start working on the project, and this conversation happened on September last year, and we already have our first prototype at Bandcamp. Like, I think it was like end of October. So for now, what is out of the box? As now, the console have 4 generators, which are module, controller, form, and plugin block. So several files and their content is generated, as well as directories. And when I mean directories, is the directories where those files live. So I will go ahead and have a list of some more in detail. So it takes care of generating module and info files. It also generates a PSR4 compliant directory structure for a module. It takes care of generating and registering routes on YAML files and map those routes to the controller and form PHP classes. It also creates those classes, adding namespaces, uses, and also extend and implements keywords when required. And I think for the last thing, support adding services using dependency injection on class generation. It means if I need or if I request a service which is living on the service container, it takes care of injecting this service to your class on class generation if you specify to it. But I mean, I already mentioned what this tool can do for you, but let's talk about who can take advantage or benefit from using it. So, who can benefit from using this? Well, module maintainers and developers can take advantage of using this because they can create and migrate contributed modules to Drupal 8. Also, Drupal trainers and consultants, because they can train developers on Drupal 8. And also Drupal shops, because they can reduce the module development time when creating modules, Drupal 8 modules. Well, before jumping into the demo, I'd like to mention about what is required to create a Drupal 8 module and show some of the changes now in Drupal 8. So the first change that I want to talk about is the directory structure is changed. Maybe it's not clear enough, but we'll see this structure once we generate the module on the live demo. And as you can see here, there's a new directory structure. Basically, you have a lot of, you have some files on the root directory, which is, let's talk about an Acme dummy module. This is basically a hello world or hello Drupal 8 module. So we have files within the route, which is like, let's say we have an info YAML file, we have a module file, the routing, and as you can see, most of the classes, or which is the object-oriented code that we will we will live in the SRC or source directory, and within this directory we have a structure way of like rearranging our classes. Let's say we have a controller directory where all our controllers should live. We have a form directory. We have a plugin, and within plugin we have another level, which is like blog. Let's say because blogs now are plugins, and we also have a test directory. And just for finishing this slide, we have the templates directory. So this is where the twig templates must be created. So let me go ahead and show some of the content of those files. For now, we have the, let's say, Acme, because in this case is the module name, Acme info.yaml file. So basically the info YAML file is a replacement for the info file. This is a plain text file to store metadata about our module. In this case, we're showing the name, the type, and the description. We also specify which is the core version that this module belongs to in the package. We also have the Acme module. Actually, the module file is pretty much the same as it was on Drupal 7. We now have a new file for registering our routes. It's called, in this case, acme.routing.yaml. Basically, this YAML file contains the routing definitions, and we can say a route is a mapping of an URL to a controller or a callback function. In this case, we are showing two routes. One route is pointing to a controller, and another route is pointing to a form. And we also have a, let's say, a controller file. This file is living in src/controller/ in the file, and the file name is default_controller.php. And this file contains like a namespace declaration, which is telling you where this class could find this file, and has some uses. And also, as you can see here, it's importing a controller-based class. And now let's say it's defining a class default controller and extending the controller-based class that we import in the line, in the upper line. And then this is adding a new method called hello with some code there. We'll find out. We will generate some kind of similar code on our demo. So let me go ahead. And also now that template system, it's using Twig. So we create a new hello.html.twig file, which is living on the templates directory. And as you can see here, there's no PHP tags. It's only HTML plus. In this case, I'm using this. I'm passing this argument, the name argument, to this Twig template for rendering the value. In order to do the rendering or the print, instead of using an echo, I have this curly brackets. And inside those curly brackets, I have the argument name or the parameter name. So what this dummy module, it's doing is basically nothing other than just getting a parameter from the URL and passing to the Twig template and just printing within prepending the hello world. I mean the hello word. So now that I have a little talk about the anatomy of a Drupal 8 module or the new Drupal way, let's jump into the demo, which is always a bad idea, but let's go ahead and do something like this. In order to have this demo done, we have some requirements. In this case, I already have my computer set up for this, so I already have a virtual machine running PHP 5.4 and Apache and everything that I need to running a Drupal 8 site. So if you want to use if you have something like this, you can use this project, which is in drupal.org/project/VM, V as in virtual machine and M as in machine. We will also need the Drupal console project, which is in drupal.org/project/console, and we will use an external library for printing my Twitter timeline. So basically, the module I will be building, we'll be only using this external library for printing my timeline. Basically, there will be a minimum amount of code within my controller and within the service that I will be creating, and basically all of the logic will be residing in this external library. Okay, how do I clone this project? The only thing that I have to do is just git clone and then say I want the branch master for the virtual machine project. Once it gets cloned, you just go and type background app. This will take care of like preparing your virtual machine for working with Drupal 8. And how do I clone Drupal 8? How do I install Drupal 8 on my virtual machine? What I need to do is do a SSH connection. So I just type background SSH, and once I'm inside my machine, I just go and change to the background www directory, and then from there I just do another git clone. But now I'm doing this git clone inside the virtual machine. I'm just cloning Drupal 8 project, so what I'm requiring is a branch 8x. Okay, that's fine. Once it gets downloaded, I just need to run -si, which means site install, specifying some options. Like in this case, I'm saying I want the standard installation. I'm just passing like what will be the database name and this and that. And you can also do this installation through the graphical interface, but for the purpose of this demo, it's always easier to do it within like Rush. So basically, now I do have my virtual machine ready, I have Drupal 8 ready, and I need to install the console. So in order to do that, it's the same thing. I need to SSH into my background box, so I just go background SSH, and then now I switch to the directory where I do have my Drupal 8 site installed, and run this command we have here. I set the Vim directory, composer Vim directory, and then say composer require, and set my requirement. In my requirement, it's Drupal/console /depmaster. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm requiring this project to get downloaded via composer. Once I have this done, well, I can easily go Vim from my Drupal 8 site, go Vim/console, and I can see what the console commands that are available. Okay, and in the end, in order to be able to use this library, I'm gonna add this library to my project. I'm just gonna add. I just can go like in type composer require and say, and just in this case specify the requirement library that I want to use. In this case, is tools, or just add it to my composer file and then run composer update. So from there, what I do have now, it's my virtual machine ready to work. I have my Drupal installation working. I have my Drupal console project installed and my tools library downloaded. And now let's see what the generators are and how this Drupal console can help me building modules. Let me jump into my terminal. Well, what I'll do is something like, if I go Vim console, what I will see it's what the commands available are. In this case, we have generate controller, generate form, generate module, and generate plugin. Let's use the first one. In this case, let's go generate, and I want to generate a module. We're gonna call this module tools, the same name as the library we're using. So let's say I want to call this tools. Hit enter. It's asking me for the path. Let's say I want that one. And I want to add a description. Let's say tools module. And then let's say with the package, other is fine. The core, generate controller. No, I don't want to generate a controller from here. I want to generate, just using the console. The other command. Generate a test. I say yes. Setting files. I say no. It's asking me for generate the whole directory structure. I'm gonna say yes for this. And it's asking me for confirming the generation. If I go here, if I go LL or listing my directories, I will see I only have admin and console modules. So if I go generate yes here, then switch back to my module directory, what my modules are for this site. Now I will see I have tools here, and if I go and say, if I go execute tree within the tools module, I will see how the whole directory is created now. Remember that it asked me for generate the whole directory structure, and I say yes. So it's here. The directory is here. It also takes care of generating the info YAML file in the tools module. We will see the content of those files later on. Let's go ahead and generate now. Let's generate a controller. I'm gonna generate a basic controller. And now the first question that will pop up, it's the module name. So I can select from the modules that I already have installed. In this case, I have Acme and tools. I'm gonna say I want this controller generate within tools directly. I'm gonna call default controller. It's totally fine with me. Generate unit test. Yeah, fine. Adding a service. No, in this case, I don't want to add a service. We will see later on. So say no. And update the routing file. I say yes. And if we go back to here and go another 3, we can see now the routing YAML file is generated. We can see we have a default controller class generated. And let me go back again then. And now let me generate a form. I want to generate a form. Same thing. It's going to ask me for the module name. I will say tools again. In this case, I'm going to call this settings form. Settings form. And adding services, I'll say no. But in this case, it's asking me for generate a form structure. I'm going to say yes. And I'm gonna start adding some fields in for this form. I want this consumer key field. The fields that I will add in here will be the fields that I need for interact with this titles library. So I'm gonna head and add about 6 fields now. Consumer key. I'll say it's the machine name is recommend me a machine name. I'll say I'm fine with that. And for now, I'm specifying the field type for the form. What I can choose for the ones available in Drupal, like range, number, email, date time. For the purpose of this demo, I'm gonna say text field. Okay, I have consumer secret field. Same thing, I can just choose between the different fields. I just want text for now. And then say access token. Same thing, machine name, I want text field. Access token secret. Same thing, I want text. Okay, I want a screen name, which it will be like the Twitter account that will be pulling the timeline. Same thing, it's like text. And just for the last field that I will adding will be a numeric field. I will say limit in this case. Limit, and remember I told you that we have different field types here. We have email, date time, date, color, text field, telephone, range, and number. So I want to specify this as a number, hit enter. Once I don't want to add any more fields, I just hit enter. And it's asking me again for updating the routing file. I say yes. And if we go back to my module directory and go like 3, I can see now we have a settings form. And we cannot see it right now, but the routing YAML file is being like updating. We'll see later. So let's jump into the last generation. Let's say I want to generate a plugin block. Same story. Here, G-tools. Then say default block. No, let's call default. Let's call this my G-tools default block. Okay. And let's say G-tools, add a description for this one, G-tools default block, and then say adding a service. No, I don't want services here. Say no. Confirm generation, yes. Okay. If we go here, we'll see now we have this G-tools default block class. So let me go back to the site installation and run this drush cr for cleaning or rebuilding the cache. And once in the meantime, let's go and open the G-tools directory to see how it looks, the code that we just generated. Okay, we have this editor here. And the first file that we will open is the info YAML file. Remember the values that we said when we generated. We say the name will be like T-tools. This is a module. So we add a description, which is like T-tools module, the core in the package. So everything is here. And it also takes care of generating the module file. So we have, the first was the info file. So now we have the second one that we are looking at is the module file. As we can see, it takes care of creating this this module file here and adding 2 hooks, help and the hook team. And also, it's when we generate the form and the controller, it also takes care of registering those classes within this file. So we have here, we have the T-tools hello, let's say the T-tools hello controller, which is pointing to a path, which will be something like T-tools hello, and then a parameter that we'll be sending. And this is the path. Then this path is pointing to a specific method or to a specific controller, which the controller is a method within a class, and it means it's pointing to a hello method within this default controller class. And as you can see, it's pointing to a underscore content because this is a controller. In the case of the form, this is pointing to an underscore form. And we also have a route here, which will be something like ttool settings form. Now let's go ahead and open the controller file. So as we can see here, the namespace was added here. It's Drupal tools controller. The use was added, so it's importing the controller class, and also takes care of creating the class. So this class is called default controller, and it's extending a controller-based class. It also takes care of adding this method. Remember that when we see the route definition, this is pointing to a hello method, and it's having this argument here, the name argument. So we have it here. We are passing this as an argument to our method, and we have this is we're returning like hello and the name we pass on it. Then we have the form also, the form that was generated. Remember the or routing. This is pointing to form settings form, which is this one. As we can see here, this class was generated. It have more code than the controller. So we have this class which is called settings form. It's extending a config form base and also adding this method, the get form ID. It also takes care of adding or building the form. Remember that we set some fields for it. So we add consumer key, consumer secret, access token, and access token secret. Remember those fields for the form were set as text field. And remember the very last one, it was a number which is called limit. It's here. So the whole form definition is here. And we also add this. It's getting from the form, the previous values. So if you already submit this form, it will take care of getting those values and insert it within your form field using this default value, getting the specific value from the settings, from the config, sorry. And how those values get set. So we also add this submit form method, which is taking care of submitting the form, and also once the form gets submitted, it takes the values from the form and set it back to the config. So we have something like we build the form, and we also add the method for submitting this form and setting all those values. And for the last thing that I will show you, we have this plugin, the blog plugin. So we have something like this here. We add it gets the class get added. It also takes care of adding the namespace where this class is living. It takes care of adding the blog base import, and so which is because it's doing this class, is extending the blog base class, and also takes care of adding the build method. For now, this block is only returning titles default block, but it also takes care of adding the annotations here. So it's telling you this plugin is a block, it's adding an ID, and it's adding a label. So if we go back here to my it's finishing the rebuild. So let's go back to my browser and let's go back here. If I go here and go to, oh, you know what? I didn't do something real important. I didn't enable. So I need to enable it first in order to see it working. So let me enable this. Once get enabled, I'll go back to my browser and look for the paths. Remember the routes that we were talking about? That I was talking about. So I will go to the route which is tools hello, and then pass an argument, and we should see hello and the argument that we are passing. And then we can go to the tools settings form, and we can see the form with the fields rendered. And in the end, we can go to the block administration page, so we can see how and assign this block to a region. So for now, it's still working. Hope it's don't take too long. So in the meantime, I don't know if any questions. Okay, it's done. Then let me move back to my browser. So it means if I go tools hello, let's say Drupal, we should see hello Drupal happening, showing on my screen. Yeah, as you can see here, this is Drupal. Let me go and change a little.
Woohoo!
Let me change here. Let me add this. This is too bad because I'm adding markup within a response instead of adding a template. But I mean,
All right, kids, nobody do this at home.
and let's go back and reload.
While you're reloading, Jesus, Chris, Charlton wanted you to point out and underscore that the console doesn't require Drush. It's just how you're doing it today.
No, it's not, because we are using the Symfony Console Component. So it is not tied to Drush. I mean, we are happy to do a Drush integration. Okay, we have our controller working here. So if we go here and say, hey, hello, Jam, guess what will happen? It will say, hello, Jam. Yeah, it works. Our first controller works. So remember, we have this settings form. If we go to the route, we will see the form render here. As we can see, we have the fields that we set here. So let me go ahead and fill those. Let me add the values to those fields, the values that the plugin will require me to. Please don't use this value at home. I'll go ahead. I will reset it. My keys once demo is finished. I'm just adding what the plugin requires me to authenticate and connect to my Twitter account. It's a read-only, so there's no problem. I'm gonna say I want to load my Twitter and say I want to see 15 tweets. Okay, I'm gonna save configuration. What is happening? It will take care of setting those values from the form to the config. So the next time the form gets loaded, like in this after this submit happens, the default value will be pulled in from the configuration and set it here. Okay, so we have our controller and we have the settings form. Let's go ahead and move to the admin block part, so we can see the block that we just generate and add it to here. So we have T-tools here, and we have this block. Let me add this one to the sidebar a second. I'll go ahead and say I want to display the title. It's totally fine. Save block. And save it again, just to make sure. And let me go back to my home directory. And this should show now a sidebar with this little block without any content other than the title, which is returning T-tools default block. So far now we have our controller, which is like T-tools, hello, and then winner argument. We have the block render here, the plugin block here, and we have the form here. So let's go ahead, move a little ahead and add more complex code, and let's implement the T-tools library. Okay, sounds good. Now we go ahead and create a service class. So I'm just gonna copy from here and create a new class. Let me create a file, service. I'm gonna call this file T-tools.php. I have the code in here, so I'm going to paste it here. What I'm doing here, it's creating a new PHP class. This class will be declared as a service, and through the service on the service declaration here, which is on the T-tools services YAML file, I'm going to take care of injecting the config factory to be able to read the configuration from the config. So I'm going to create. So I'm going to call T-tools/services YAML. Fine. Say here. So what I'm saying here, this will be a service. This will be the name, T-tools.app, and this is pointing to a class. The class is living within Drupal T-tools, which is my module name. Service and T-tools is the class name, and I'm passing as an argument the config factory here. Okay. If I go here and open my service class, you will see how I'm getting this on the constructor. I'm passing the config factory and just setting within my local variable. And also, yeah, basically, and then I have a protected method here for getting the app or instantiating the Titles app. In the case it's not instantiated, it takes care of getting the values from the config here, and then create a config array of values and passing on the constructor. If it's already, was already instantiated, it's gonna return the object. And then adding a public method called getUserTimeline. This method will take care of calling the getUserTimeline method within the library, the Titles library. So let me go ahead. I have this. I have what I do have. I have my service. I have my service registration, and I will go ahead and add this calling a template because I don't want to do the same thing that I did on my previous example, which is bad. So I'm gonna add a hook here, and I want this to call timeline page, and it's calling a template called timeline. Should reside here. I have the code here on the next slide. Let me copy my timeline HTML code here. Let's say timeline.html h12. Set it here. And this template is calling another file. It's called tweet.html. So let me copy the content of the next file right here. Copy. Go right here and let me add this. Now we have timeline. Let me add this new file, which is called tweet.html.twig. Add it here, and in the end, let me add this CSS just in order to make this look kind of look good. So I'm gonna add it right here. I'm gonna add it right here. Fine. I'll put my assets within assets/css/ttools.css, which is fine. I'm gonna set it here, save, and I will go ahead and clear Gaussian Drash CR. Okay. I'm gonna clear it. I'm gonna rebuild the cache. Now it's gonna take care of registering my service. And once this is done, I will go ahead and generate a new controller. But remember the last time it asked me for adding a service. In this case, I will add a service, and the service that I will add is the one I just created. Let me just finish. It's gonna take this little time. So far, any other questions, Jam?
Yes, Eduardo Garcia has a question. So he asks, does this module that you're making work with the current contributed or core modules in Drupal 8? And if that changes, will it affect the can you update that, or do you have to create a new module? I'm a little bit unsure. Can you see the Q&A there?
Let me move back to the Q&A. Where is that?
Try stop sharing your desktop for a second. Maybe you can see it on the.
Oh yeah, I saw the little thing here. This is like loading something. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah, with this module work with current contributor or core. Yeah, for now it's working with modules living within the module directory. Yeah, no, not with modules living within the core directory. And yeah, you can create a new module or add. Like in this case, I created Titles module, right? And now after I create this one, I can keep adding like more functionality. Like in this case, let me go ahead and I will add a new controller. So it's, let's say, maybe this isn't a module that already exists, not the one I just created. So I can just go and generate a controller from a specific module. That's it. You can add functionality to a existing module. Like in this case, and how do you do that? Once it starts asking you for the modules that you have, and it takes care of loading all of the modules that you have installed within your contributed, which is like module directory. So I'm going ahead and say I want to create a Titles. I want to call this timeline controller. And test, yeah. So when ask me for adding a service, I will say yes this time, and I will remember how we call, what was the name that we give to the service, which is this one. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm updating a module that I already have generated. That's one. I don't know if that answered the questions. I'm gonna say routing, yes. Let me go now, and since for now the routing generation, it's always the default. I'm gonna change the route and say timeline here. I'm gonna change the method here to something like stream, and I will go ahead and open the new controller. As you can see, compared with the previous one, which was only the default and there's no services injected, the code is different. So in this case, takes care of adding all of the uses, takes care of adding not only the extend controller based class, it's also taking care of implementing this other class, the container injection interface class. And it's also, remember that I say yes, and I specify a service. So this is taking care of adding the container and extracting from the container the service that I'm requesting. We're requesting, in this case, is Titles app. So it's taking care of passing this to the constructor and then setting locally on my class here. So what I'm gonna do is replace here for the stream, which is the name that I give to my, on the routing declaration, let's say stream here, and whoops, and let me go ahead and replace the code here. I have the code here. So how do I use that service that I just created? The only thing that I have to do is something like this. Go ahead here and get from this Titles app service that I just injected, and just use the get user timeline method. And let me go ahead and go back and double check my routing, and let me call this one to something different, machine name to stream. So what I'm doing here is I have my routing here. It will be Titles timeline that it will point to the controller that you generate, and what I did is change the method name. Just change the method name here, which is this one, and just removing the argument because I don't need it. And within this method, I'm just adding the code for calling from the server that I just injected this method. So let me go ahead and guess what? I need to do another drush CR. So we have a few time for questions now that it's rebuilding the cache. Let me go ahead and see the questions here. What?
I think we're clear on the questions right now.
Seems like no one is understanding what's happening here.
Well, it's either that or you're covering all the issues.
Hopefully it's the second one. Yeah. So once yeah, actually Drupal is not that slow. It's like my virtual machine. It's really slow because I just mess with my synchronization. So I just upgrade to Bakeran 1.6, I think so, and then I was not able to do the rs. I mean the rsync on the file synchronization. So I go back to NFS. So let me go back here, and it's supposed, if everything goes well, if I go something like this and go Tools and then timeline, something should happen. Yay, it's working. What do we have here is we have this route, which is Titles timeline. It's pointing to a controller, and the controller is returning my timeline. So what the tweak file is doing here, it's calling, if it's tweak that I did myself, it put my avatar on it. If it's not, take care of loading the the retweet data from it. So that's why I just add two tweet template files. One is for iterating the stream result, and the other one is for deciding if it's a tweet or a retweet. So if we go ahead a little more and want to do the same thing for a plugin block, as we can see, it's exactly the same code. So the way we call a service, it's pretty much the same. The only thing we need to do is go right here and go then console, then generate, go plugin, go block, and say I want to generate, or I want to add a new block to a module that I already have on it or have created. In this case, the T-Tools module. Say yes. I want to call this T-Tools timeline block, right? And then it's going to ask me for the name. I'm going to say T-Tools timeline block. And I will say adding a service, yes. Service I want to add is the one I just add. Generation, yes. If I go right away and to the block, to the block, which is this one. This one. As we can see, it's also different than the T-Tools default one. So it's adding all of the uses, it's extending the class, the proper class, it's implementing the other class, taking care of doing all the code that you needed here. And the only thing I need to change is right here. Instead of returning the default value, I'm going to return this. It's the same thing. I'm just getting from my T-Tools app service that I just injecting here. I'm just injecting here from the container, passing from the container here, and just passing to the constructor. And we have here, we have the use of our service here. We go save here and go ahead and do a trash CR once again. And now we will see this block within our admin block page, and we will be able to set it up or to assign to show within our site, and it will be pulling the timeline also from the Twitter. And remember that the settings that I did on the form, I say like limit 15, so that's why we only see like this specific numbers of tweets here. Let me go back. Let's wait.
You know, you said it yourself about doing a live demo.
Huh? Yeah, let me go back again here.
There we are.
And there, let me again to the block admin page. We should see the new block. Yeah, in the meantime, it's loading. We also add the functionality for registering your own command. So you can, even if you are creating a module, you can register your own console commands to be like registered through the Symfony Console. And we're also working in like more like plugins. Like we have a little roadmap where we're planning to add like formatters and widgets from it. So let me go ahead, and I have T-Tools timeline block here. I'm gonna set it here on my sidebar second region. Go save block and save it again. And then move to the home page. And hopefully, if it works, we will see my timeline on the sidebar. If I go to my home link, yeah, I can see my timeline on the sidebar.
Woohoo!
So now we can yeah, it's great. So we can reuse the service. I mean, it's just fine. And basically, we can change something like values here. Let's say I want to say like 25. Or I want to duplicate on here.
Isaac Sierra wants to know, is it required to run the console within an instance of Drupal, or can it be run from outside with Drush?
Can be run from outside as Drush. Yeah, we have a pull request for running as a standalone, not within a Drupal site. But we haven't. I mean, actually, we did the request. We are still having unsure of being like that. I mean, until we find a real use case for it. But yeah, you can do that. So basically, let me go ahead, and as you can see, now we have more tweets because I say 25. Yep. If I go back and refresh to the timeline page, and we can see the two changes that I did on the form. So I replaced my user for Drupalicon, which is now here, and we are listing the tweets from Drupalicon instead of mine, and we are seeing 25 instead of 15. So I think that's the demo is done, and let's go and let me go back and finish my screen share, and let's see if someone has a question.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
There I am. Haha! It got kind of dark over here while you were doing that, so I just turned on my light. Hey, that was really, really, really interesting. So that lets me get down to the meat of the important stuff of building my modules, and takes care of all of that new, interesting Symfony stuff along the way too. Thank you so much for taking the time to do the session with us. Any final points you want to make? You want to do a shameless plug for something else you're up to?
No, just I mean, add, as you were mentioning, basically the tool takes care of adding all the wrapper code that you need to generate a module, controller, plugin, or form, and you take care of only for you adding the code for what your business logic will be. And really add something to add is like the way I did it here is like, I think it's basically I'm just reusing a external library, so I don't it's kind of have my controller with a little amount of code or little lines of code, and basically make this library living outside of Drupal makes the library be useful within any other projects like as I mentioned at the beginning, like Symfony, Silex, and like Laravel, and any other PHP framework. And no, I think I'm all done, and thank you again for inviting me to your virtual Drupal camp. And I think it's a great effort for showing sessions. I mean, for people that might be sessions that you don't see when you attend a camp, or maybe you were not able to attend any camp or something. So thank you again for doing this.
Cool. It's certainly my pleasure. Take care. Go enjoy your sunny, warm day. And my day is actually just finished. So thanks, man. See you sometime soon. Take care, everyone. Got some more cool camp sessions coming for the live audience over the next 3 days in my time zone. So have a look on my Google Plus page to see some more of those. Take care, Jesus.
Yeah, I just want to add something real quick.
Yes.
See you at Austin, and I will be doing a training with Blink reaction people.
Very cool.
Yeah, which is let me get the link. Let me get the link real quick. And it's for training. Almost forget that. So the training is called Introduction to Symfony 2, Getting Ready for Drupal 8. So I'm gonna share the link with you here.
Put that on the event page for this hangout right now.
Sure, I'll do that. I'll share the link, and also share my slides.
Oh yeah, I need the link to your slides as well. In any case, for the podcast page.
Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll share on the screen. I mean on the event page.
Perfect. Thanks, Jesus.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.